What's going on, everybody? Welcome to the channel. Let's speak on this David Benavidez and Alexander Usyk fight. Now, for a couple days now, this fight has been getting a lot of buzz ever since Benavidez got that dominating victory over Zerto. I had somebody ask me, who do I think will win this fight and why? And here's my answer. I'm leaning towards Usyk because Usyk, man, he has experience at the heavyweight division. Usyk has already beaten elite level fighters like Tyson Fury, Anthony Joshua, and he's also proven he can handle size, power, and pressure at the highest level. And so you got to take that into consideration, man, the level of competition that he fought. Also, his punch resistance. He's going to have a lot more punch resistance as opposed to a guy like David Benavidez. Benavidez, yeah, he's probably sparred bigger guys, but we're talking about Usyk, all right? And I know some people don't see Usyk as a heavy puncher, but it's not about being a heavy puncher. He's precise, and if you can't hurt him, you're not going to be able to keep him off you, all right? But let's move on to footwork and IQ. Usyk's movement is probably the biggest advantage he has in this fight. He creates angles constantly. He controls the distance and he forces his opponents to reset over and over, with his feints, that Soviet style. It's such a difficult style to prepare for. Man, when I hear about the Soviet style, I think about guys like Lomachenko, Dmitry Bivol, of course Usyk, and Madrimov. Those guys have that bounce-like rhythm to their style. And it makes it so difficult for guys that are come-forward pressure fighters, Benavidez is a very flat-footed fighter, and that is why I think he's going to struggle against a guy like Usyk, because Usyk is not just going to sit there and let him tee off on him with those combinations that he throws. Also, let's talk about the mindset, man, and that IQ. Benavidez, I don't think he knows when to pull out of the exchange. When he's throwing those combinations from his hips, as I mentioned before, his chin is wide open. And Usyk is known for punching between guys' punches. When they're in their exchange, he's known for countering his opponents. And I believe he's going to catch them, And it could be early on in the fight. So that's another big thing that I can see. I think it's going to be a really good fight, but Benavidez, man, he's known for throwing all those combinations. But the thing is, he relies on fighters to fight his style. But he's going to be fighting someone with true ring generalship. A guy who's going to control the pace because he's used to these championship type of fights. So it's going to be a real tough fight for him. But if there's anybody who can move up in weight and beat a guy like Usyk right now, it's Benavidez. I don't see nobody else being able to do it. I don't see Bivol doing it. I don't see Jao Pataya doing nothing like that. I only see Benavidez doing it, man. But it's not going to be easy, for those reasons I just mentioned right there. Next, let's talk about the championship composure that Usyk has, man. He rarely panics in big moments, man. Even when he's hurt or pressured, he adapts mid-fight, better than almost anyone in boxing today. So that's another thing. When Benavidez gets to throwing those combinations, I'm telling you, he has to protect himself because Usyk is going to counter him, And I'm telling you, just the footwork alone, I think it's going to be too much for him. He's going to box angles all around this guy, And that's what I see happening from that end, man. Usyk is just too skilled for him, He's fought a guy like Tyson Fury. And as we know, Tyson Fury is a great boxer, man. And it's impressive how good he's able to move at that height and weight, man. But, a guy like Usyk, man, if he can go in there and take on that tough task, I don't think Benavidez will be an issue, But let's move on to Benavidez, man, because he does bring some to the table. One thing about Benavidez is this. When I think about him, I think about volume and pressure. Benavidez throws in combinations nonstop, man, and he's known for overwhelming his opponents. If he can go in there and force Usyk to fight out of character, he's going to have success. Also, his aggression, his mindset, that come forward mindset is going to be big in this fight for him as well, man. One thing about Benavidez has that mindset of breaking his opponent's will. So that's going to make this a great fight because we know he's there to be great and he's not going to back down, man. He doesn't care if he's down on the scorecards. He's going to go in there and fight lights out, and that's one thing I like about this matchup, his aggression, man. Unlike most opponents that Usyk faced, man, they allowed Usyk to box comfortably. And one thing about Benavidez, man, he's going to try to make it a rough, tough fight every round, but at the end of the day, this is my prediction. I got Usyk winning by late decision or late stoppage, just due to everything else I just mentioned. Benavidez would have some strong moments early and maybe the mid-fight, but Usyk's movement and conditioning and experience at the heavyweight division would probably separate him in the championship rounds, man. But other than that, man, that's all I have for you guys in this video. Y'all let me know what y'all think. Catch y'all in the next video.